Well, one of the things that happened when I was working for Baumgartner at Irwindale Raceway, selling souvenirs, I had a lot of fun. I really, Glenn Baumgartner was really not a nice person. It was crazy working for him. He didn't treat people well, but it's just the situations that you got into because of the fact that you were working for him that I really enjoyed working for him. Not only did I make a lot of money for a 15, 16, 17-year-old kid back in the mid 70s, I did traveling around the country, going to new places, seeing motorcycle races, car races, meeting people. I had a great time. But one of the things that really stood out was a day in early summer of 1973. I'm thinking probably June of 73. I was on my way to work at a big drag race. I'm thinking, I'm trying to remember all the details, and some things are kind of fuzzy. It was either a 2 day or possibly a 3 day drag race event at Irwindale Raceway. It was one of the big ones. And I was on the way there on my recently purchased Yamaha RD 350. It was basically brand new. It had like 700 miles on it. The conditions under which I bought this motorcycle were pretty crazy. My neighbor, Skip Edwards, I never did know his real name. Everybody knew him as Skip. His dad called him Skipper, but everybody else just called him Skip. Skip Edwards, my next door neighbor. We lived in West Covina, and he was having to commute into more proper Los Angeles area almost all the time. And he thought, I'd like to have a motorcycle for this commute. And he didn't know that much about motorcycles. He wasn't that much of a rider and didn't have that much knowledge about motorcycles in general, which I didn't take into account either one of those factors, being a 16-year-old kid. When he came to me and asked for my advice on what kind of motorcycle he should buy, he basically said, if you could buy any motorcycle you wanted right now for riding on the street, what would you get? Well, I said a Yamaha RD 350, of course, because they were quick. I mean, it was the Honda 750 beater. It was just an amazingly fast little motorcycle of the day. And so I told him, yeah, I'd get a Yamaha RD 350. He said, well, come on down to Bert's Yamaha with me and help me pick one out. Yeah, buddy, you got it. And so we jumped in his work truck and we went over to Bert's Yamaha in Irwindale. Probably in Azusa. Yeah, Bert's was in Azusa. And he had me test ride a few RD 350s and choose one. And they were pretty much identical, but I ended up choosing one, and he bought it. He put 50% down on it. I don't remember what the price was, around $1,000 or so, probably. He put 50% down on it and financed the rest. The payments were $35 a month. I forget for how long. 2 years, 3 years, I don't know. This has been a long, this is 1973. We're buying a brand new 1973 Yamaha RD 350. Well, he rode it to work a few times and decided he didn't like it. It probably wasn't the right bike for somebody without a lot of riding experience. Quick, nimble, very responsive, front disc brake. I mean, it went fast, it stopped fast, it turned fast, it did everything fast. Well, he didn't like it, which is understandable. And so he came to me and said, "Hey, I don't like this bike. I'll sell it to you for takeover payments." This was less than a week old, or probably about a week old. And he put 50% down on it. Hadn't even made the first payment. I'll sell it to you for takeover payments. Well, yeah. And, I was working for Baumgartner and making more money than anybody else my age that I knew. So, yeah, I bought it. 4 days later, I was riding it with my buddy Pete on the back. We were on our way to Irwindale Raceway for this big drag race. And it was hot. I remember it was hot because we jumped in Pete's swimming pool before getting on the bike. He got thoroughly soaked and then jumped on the motorcycle and went for a ride. I put my wallet in the very small storage area under the seat. Back in those days, you had your ignition key would unlock the seat, and you'd lift the seat up, and there would be places for your papers and your registration and stuff like that was locked under the seat. So that's where I put my wallet, and we're heading for Irwindale Raceway. Now, at the corner of, where was it? It was just coming into Irwindale from the south on the main drag. Gladstone, I think it was Gladstone. Irwindale Boulevard and Gladstone or Arrow. It wasn't Arrow Highway, I don't think. I'll firm it up in my mind. This has been a few years now. 1973. And most of you weren't even alive. But anyway, major intersection, traffic light controlled, and you make a left turn to go to the front gate of Irwindale Raceway. I misjudged the speed of the oncoming traffic. My fault. And I felt bad about that ever since. But it was also the fault of the 73 Gran Torino for doing 55 in a 35 zone, as was verified by the off-duty police officer that was behind him. I misjudged his speed, turned left, and got T-boned by a 73 Gran Torino. Think Starsky and Hutch. For those of you that are that old, all right, Starsky and Hutch. The 73 Gran Torino was very well memorialized in that TV series. And yeah, I watched that show. I've seen every episode. And he wasn't paying attention. He was still on the throttle, 55 miles an hour, in a very heavy, made out of steel car, as most were back then. And he T-boned us. Now, Pete, he got tossed aside like yesterday's trash, and he got 7 stitches in his leg and a concussion. We were both wearing good helmets. Open face helmets. We weren't wearing a Bellstar closed face helmet. I didn't have one at the time, or I would have been wearing it, because I'm a big fan of helmets. And so Pete got tossed away, minor injuries. I hung around for the main event. Even though I just got T-boned by a big steel car that was going 55 miles an hour on my lightweight little motorcycle, I was going to try to ride out of it. Yeah, it's an instinctual thing. You know, you don't give up until it all comes to a stop, right? And so my right leg took the brunt of the damage, and it was damaged quite badly. Almost lost it below the knee. Came real close. There were other pretty severe injuries, but the right leg was the one that kind of dominated the scene. And it was a very ugly day. 2 16-year-old kids laying in the street. I got dragged. I hit in the leg, and I slammed on my right side onto the hood of the car. So I wiped out the grill. Probably did some pretty severe damage to the bumper. Wiped out the grill, slammed onto the hood, tearing the hood apart. Hit my head on the hood on the right side of my helmet. Then slammed onto the ground, still straddling the motorcycle. Crushed the fuel tank between my legs. And hit the ground on my left side. Went under the car and got dragged. I don't know how far I got dragged. I'm not entirely sure where I came to a stop, but the guy didn't know he hit me. Yeah, I just got peeled off the hood of his car at 55 miles an hour. He didn't know. He didn't notice. All right, he was checking out the condition of the headliner or whatever. Nice new car. He was all proud and everything. He was in his 60s probably. I have a vague memory of what he looked like. He didn't know he hit me. He's dragging me down the road with the motorcycle because we got stuck. If it was just the motorcycle, maybe it would have come unstuck. If it was just me, probably wouldn't have got stuck. But the two of us together got stuck. And I do remember looking at a fraction of a second of looking at the underside of this car and thinking, this guy doesn't know I'm here. How long is he going to go? Well, the off-duty officer that was behind him realized what was going on, and he started zigzagging across the 2 lanes of traffic, flashing his headlights, honking his horn, trying to not only get the attention of the guy in the Gran Torino, but also to back off the traffic behind them so that I didn't get ran over again when I came out from under the car. This off-duty officer, whose name I never knew, saved my life right there, most likely. Guy finally realizes there's something going on. He hits the brakes. Back into the car, rises up just a little bit. I get unstuck and come bouncing out from underneath the car. Off-duty officer throws his car sideways at an angle between me and the traffic. Again, doing what he can to save the kid's life. Guy in the Gran Torino, he jumps out of his car, and I'm thinking, he's going to say he didn't see me. Because that's the people in the cars, that's standard procedure. That's what they always say. I didn't see him. Oh, no, he didn't see me because he wasn't paying attention. Which is why people in cars don't see motorcycles, because they're not paying attention. I remember sliding down the road. I don't even remember what direction, probably in the direction of that the Gran Torino was going. Sliding down the road on my butt backwards with my left shoe bouncing along side of me. That's why, you remember the craziest things out of an accident like that. And when I came to a stop, it threw me back on, and I was laying on my back, and I sat up, had a brand new face shield. It was an open face helmet, but back in the day, the cool thing to have was the face shield. Okay? And not only that, I had bought a face shield that has the 3 snaps across the forehead and the 2 snaps like on your cheek area to attach it to the helmet. This face shield I bought specifically for the fact that the snaps on the forehead also had snaps facing outwards, so you could put a visor on it. And the visor that I had on there, we called it the Bell Shorty. It was a Bell helmet visor. It wasn't a Bell helmet. The helmet was a Graft. The visor was Bell. It said Bell right on it. We called it the Bell Shorty. It was like a motocross style visor, but about half the length. Because when you're riding on the street, you don't want a full length visor. It catches the wind and yanks your head around, does all sorts of silly stuff. The visor and the shield were all torn up. And I remember thinking, damn it, I tore up my brand new shield and my Bell Shorty visor that was given to me by Larry Shaw, number 5 speedway racer at the time, Southern California. If you were around back then, you remember him well. Cool guy. He gave me that visor. Actually, he crashed at Irwindale Raceway and the visor popped off of the helmet and flew up over the wall, and I grabbed it. No, I didn't grab it and run. I grabbed it and I went to give it back to him after everything had settled down and he was back in the pits. I went over to the pit fence and I said, Mr. Shaw, I got your visor. Came over the wall. And he said, well, that was really cool of you to bring it to me. You can have it. And to me, that was a very cool souvenir. I bought that face shield specifically so I could wear my Larry Shaw Bell Shorty visor on that helmet. Well, things got tore up, and I was mad. Then I sat up and looked at my right leg. The bottom of my right foot, I was looking at the bottom of my right foot next to my knee. Yeah, it was doing a 180 and coming back at me. There was bones sticking out of my jeans. Levi's 501s, of course. What else would a 16-year-old kid wear in 1973? And when I saw the bones sticking out of my jeans and the big pool of blood starting up, okay, we got construction to ride through here. Morning, guys. Being a retired operating engineer, all the respect. These guys are county workers, which, a whole different breed of people, but hey, they're out there doing repairs on the highway. All the respect for those guys. So anyway, I'm looking at my bones sticking out of my jeans and the blood starting to pool up. I mean, I left a huge blood stain on the asphalt there. And my next thought was, oh man, my mom is going to be so pissed. I had just broken that leg 11 months earlier and had to go through all the nonsense of having it. And I broke it pretty bad. I put 2 screws in the ankle. I was in plaster for a number of months and then not walking. I was actually 11 months later, I was just getting back to being able to walk fairly well and working diligently on stretching my right ankle all the time because the doctor told me you gotta work this ankle. You gotta move it a lot, all the time, every day. Move this ankle, or you'll lose the flexibility in it. Well, I was doing what the doctor said right up until they put it back in plaster for months again. That's why I still have very little flexibility in my right ankle to this day. Over 50 years later. Because the rehabilitation of my ankle got wrapped up in plaster and didn't get to happen. But anyway, yeah, just getting back to walking pretty decent from the last time I broke the leg. And here I am breaking the leg again. Let's see, yep, 24 miles from home. When I hit 30, I'm going to turn around. So anyways, it's not a good day. So when the ambulance got there, 45 minutes later, because I guess the 911 and the paramedic system was developed in Los Angeles County in 1974. This was 1973. Somebody ran to a phone booth, and the building is still there. There probably isn't still a phone booth on it, but I know the phone booth he ran to. And he went in the phone book and saw an ambulance company on Foothill Boulevard. A Foothill Boulevard was only a couple blocks away, and he called them and told them where the accident was. Foothill Boulevard is a long road, very long. It's Route 66, but a very long stretch of it is called Foothill Boulevard. So anyway, 45 minutes later, the ambulance shows up. During that time, the off-duty officer, we'll just call him Officer Bill for lack of a better word. I owe the guy my life. He put a tourniquet on my leg, up on the thigh, and he knew what he was doing. Released it every once in a while to let some blood flow, closed it back up, because there were arteries in my leg, not the femoral artery, but very large arteries below the knee that were ripped apart so bad that they ended up having to do surgery on the arteries themselves. So you know I was bleeding. And I would have bled out. 45 minutes, I definitely would have bled out without somebody taking action. So, Officer Bill, I'm guessing you're not still alive. Thank you. So anyway, when the ambulance did get there, excuse me, so this is an ambulance, not paramedics. You got a driver and a guy riding with them. Attendant, I guess they call them. I don't know. They're trained in the basics, but they're not paramedics. They pull up in a 1971 Cadillac ambulance. And I remember clearly the passenger side ambulance attendant comes to the back of the car, looks at me and the amount of blood on the ground, and says very clearly, "Oh, fuck." They see the worst stuff on a daily basis. I'm going to pedal here a little bit to not only to give some exercise, but to conserve battery, since this is going to be a 60-mile ride. So I'm thinking, oh, geez, the people who see this kind of stuff all the time are reacting that way is not a good sign. So while they were bundling me up with an air splint to straighten my leg out, put an air splint on it, and I told them, now here's where the weird stuff happens, okay? If I hadn't broken my leg the year before, I would not be familiar with Dr. Max, one of the doctors that put my leg together the year before. Dr. Max and Dr. Osborne of the Metcalf Medical Group in West Covina. I called. We didn't have cell phones back then. I told the ambulance guys, get on your radio and have your dispatcher call Dr. Max. I need Dr. Max. The ordinary doctor is not going to be able to put this together. And they did that. And Dr. Max told their dispatcher to tell them, go right past those first two hospitals to Queen of the Valley Hospital in West Covina. I'll meet you there. Off we went. And here they were putting these tongue depressors in my mouth for me to bite on when we had to hit the brakes or accelerate, because they were scooting right along on surface streets. Code 3. All the way from Irwindale to Queen of the Valley Hospital. Yeah. We get into the emergency room, and the emergency room doctor, he takes one look at my leg and says, we have to take this off below the knee right now. If we don't, if we wait, it's going to be above the knee in a very short while. So now I'm starting to get scared, right? 16-year-old kid, a very active 16-year-old kid, and they're talking about taking off my right leg. They're prepping me for surgery. Hello, squirrel. And the doctor runs off to prep himself for surgery. They got me on the operating table. And of course, as is my habit, I ate lunch just before the accident. So they can't put me out. You have to wait at least 8 hours after eating for general anesthetic. So they're fixing to do this surgery to take off my leg with me awake. And here comes Dr. Max. Comes over, takes a quick look, looks at me and says, oh boy, you really know how to do it, don't you? As I don't think I was really capable of speaking at the moment, but he kind of nodded my head. Yeah. And the Dr. Max, he started barking orders and said, don't touch him. I'll be right back. And the orders, which I didn't understand, was basically all about get stuff ready for bovine arterial graft. I didn't even know that's what they did until much, much later. Probably months, possibly a year later, that I found out that that's what they had done. They put cow arteries in my leg. I never heard of any such a thing. That's crazy. But the arteries were so torn up, there wasn't enough of them left to just put them back together. or I don't know all the details about it, but somehow or another, I ended up with cow arteries in my leg. 3.5 hours on the table, awake. Thankfully, I don't remember most of that. Your mind has a way of protecting itself from such things, I guess. But, yeah, they saved the leg. That was surgery number 1. 2 days later, surgery number 2 was to clean up the mess. Just to clean things up good enough to get a real good look at what was going on. 2 days later, surgery number 3 to set the bone and put in 13-inch long tibia nail. Surgery number 4 was skin graft. There were, memory's kind of fuzzy on it, of course. That's Highway 58 off to our left there. But after that, there was four operations 2 days apart. A couple days later, they sent me home. A couple weeks later, in the office, Dr. Max did all the work to save the leg and do the skin graft on my shin, the part where the bones had been sticking out. And when I went back in, Dr. Osborne was taking care of the rest of the situation. And he cut a window in my cast from my toes to my nuts, all plaster. He cut a window in it at the ankle to take a look at the area where they had, instead of skin grafting, they had taken the skin that was there and laid it all back into place and stitched it up. And I remember it well. That didn't work. So when he opened it up, a 16-year-old kid, he pulls the bandage of the internal part of the cast off of me, the cloth part, and we're looking at the inside of my right ankle. I cried. It was that ugly. It was like looking at a bad roadkill, but it's on me. It's a part of me. Oh, that hurt. Oh man, what do we do, doc? And he said, we're going to have to do another skin graft. They had taken one patch of skin off of my upper right leg. They're going to have to take another one. See you in the hospital tomorrow. Well, the next day, I showed up in the hospital. And they did another skin graft. Skin grafting is very painful. Most of it from the area where they take the skin. And it leaves a scar. Both places where they take the skin and where they put it. And nobody escapes the scarring. I'm proud of my scars, though. They're a part of me. I went through hell for those scars. If somebody, some plastic surgeon was to offer me the opportunity, and I've said this my entire life, not just now when I'm 68 years old, I've always said that if I had the opportunity to have those scars removed, no charge, it's not going to hurt, there's not going to be any downtime, just remove those scars, I'd turn it down. Those are my scars, and I'm keeping them. So, I got the leg all put back together. I was probably 3 or 4 months in long plaster, and then they put a short cast on me. It was a new type of cast. It was developed for skiers, snow skiers. Coming up here on the Southern California version of the Arlington National Cemetery. I've only been here once before. Roadrunner. Yes, we have roadrunners in the area. Bakersfield National Cemetery. Good morning, sir. That must be his government Corvette. Actually, probably not. The man did his service to his country, and now he's made a success of himself, and he has a Corvette. Gotta find a shady spot to pull over here and get off the bike for a while. The flag is at half mast. Wonder if it's always that way. Good morning. I think I just showed up at a special time. Bakersfield Freedom Riders. So they're having a memorial service today here for a veteran. Big shout out to all our veterans. For all that they've done. I gotta make sure I get back home before the temperature hits 100. Well, it's only supposed to be 96 today. That's still too hot for this old man. Keeping the speed under 10 miles an hour. Be absolutely respectful to these people. Now there's no usable shoulder on either side of the road here. No bike lane and no shoulder to ride on. So I'm gonna, oh ass. Well, there's a little bit of shoulder for a little while here. This kind of area here, I just try to get through as fast as I can and get to a place where it's a little bit safer to ride. Never dealt with the Hall's ambulance people. Hopefully I never will. I'm sure they're absolute professionals. I just don't want to ever be in that position again. So anyway, after a few months of rehabilitation, still in plaster, but there, I was every single week. I think it was Wednesday afternoon after school. I had a standing appointment at the doctor's office. My mom had to give me a ride there the whole time I had the long cast on. As soon as they put the short cast on, the special new cast, it wasn't a walking cast, but I duct taped the concern is one of the reasons I'm still able to walk, is because of getting back active ASAP. And so after they put the short cast on, I would ride my bicycle to the doctor's appointment every Wednesday afternoon. And slow things down a little bit here so I can pedal assist. Pedal assist 3, otherwise it takes off and wants to go faster than I want it to go if I'm on number 4 or number 5. So they told me, all of the doctors, there was Dr. Metcalf, the founder and owner of the clinic, who remembered me because he had worked on my ankle, or was it what did I break? It was my arm, my left elbow when I was 5. Dr. Metcalf put it together. Hell of a doctor. All the respect to Dr. Metcalf and his associates. Dr. Max, Dr. Osborne, and two others who worked on me in the operating room at one time or another, but I can't quite remember their names because I didn't interact with them that much. All of the doctors got together, studied my x-rays, and look at the bone was, I wish I had a copy of the x-rays. It was just it was a mess. From the knee to the ankle, everything was crushed. And, oh, we got twisties. I love it. So, they had a meeting and they had me in there and they wanted to let me know that in their professional opinions, the leg was never going to work. They had done all they could, and I was never going to be able to walk on it. They were basically offering me the option of removing it below the knee. And I told them, I can't do that. I cannot let you do that. I said, if it doesn't work, we can take it off later, right? Oh, well, yeah, but now, if we took it off now, you could get on the prosthetic and still be, fully active and I said, no. I can't do that without having tried. I gotta try. You guys gotta let me. Now, okay. And they basically, I don't remember the exact words, but they said they just didn't want me to get my hopes up. Well, I don't know. Knowing me the way they did, was that an attempt at reverse psychology? These guys are no dummies. They knew their job. They did it well. I could wiggle my toes, and I don't know if it was true what they were telling me. But either way, I said no. And they didn't seem all that surprised by that. And after probably about 6 months in plaster, I got all of the last cast off. And boy, that leg was looking meager. There wasn't much to it. It still, it still doesn't have the muscular development of the other leg. It's smaller. No matter how much I worked at it, the size and strength never came back. But Coach Birkenhager at West Covina High School, he was one of the football coaches. And he also did, he ran the weight room basically during the day. And football practice, wrestling practice in the morning and football practice in the afternoon. And I told him what the doctors had told me. And he said, if you want to walk, I'll make you walk. You got to really want it. And I told him, Coach, you know me. I got to walk. I can't, I got to walk. And he hooked me up 3 classes a day, 45 minutes each class, every day in the weight room with him. Well, with a whole class of other guys too, but I had 3 classes a day in the weight room. Now this would have been when I was a senior, I believe. And I just worked on that leg. At first, I couldn't do anything with it. I could barely even move it. It didn't want to move on its own. The lower part of the leg. I tried to get back to flexing my ankle, but it was that ship had sailed. So, excuse me. I'm working at it and working at it. Spent a lot of time on the old weight machines with the weight stack, with the pin that you put in. And if you take the pin out, you see, I had already been working a lot on the leg weights from the first time I broke my leg. That's how I got back to walking. And I figured I did it once, I can do it again. You take the pin out of the weight stack and set it on top. On the leg press, you have 20 pounds on there. The 20-pound weight is attached to the bar. I had the pin sitting on top of the 20-pound bar, pick up my right leg with both hands and put it on the pedal and just push. Like isometric exercises. Just push. It wasn't going anywhere. I just sat there and pushed on it for weeks at a time. And I tried to do the leg lift, where you've got the padded end of the arm. You're sitting with your leg hanging down and you're trying to extend. I forget all the names of the different extension. No movement. But weeks later, after just sitting there pushing on this thing as hard as I could, I lifted that 20-pound weight a couple inches off of the stack. And I couldn't believe it. Slammed it back down. I couldn't hold it. I lifted it a couple inches, couldn't hold it. And I was so excited. I was yelling, Coach, come here, look at this. And he comes over and goes, what? Because he was a gruff old man. He was like a drill instructor. Old school drill instructor, not these new namby-pamby ones I got. And he comes over and goes, what? And I said, Coach, watch this. And I lifted that 20-pound weight up off of the stack again, slammed it back down. And Coach Birkenhager, you gotta love the guy. He reached out there and he grabbed that pin. And he put it in the 40-pound slot. And turned around and walked away. Didn't say a word. Didn't nod. Didn't smile. Nothing. Put it in 40 and walked away. And I sat there. I'm sure my jaw was hanging open. I was, well, fuck you too. And I started pushing on it again. Weeks later, when I lifted that 40, I didn't say anything to him. Nothing. Many weeks later, in fact, a year and a half after the accident, I took my first steps out on the track around the football field at West Covina High School. I walked by myself without crutches, a cane, or anything. I took my first steps, and I screwed up. I yelled, "Coach, look at this!" And he came over, and I walked. I've ran all of this stuff. I've been on paving crews for Jaeger and Matic out in the San Bernardino area, and a company whose name I can't remember in the San Diego area. Paving is rough work. I wish they'd bring out a machine though, even a paver box that attach it to the back of the dump truck. Something rather than blade lay it. But if you get a good blade operator, he can do it without leaving tire tracks with an articulating blade. If he knows how to articulate properly, it can be done. And then I've seen blade laid asphalt that you couldn't tell. Even knowing asphalt, you couldn't tell that it was blade laid. Where was I? Coach, look at this! And I took a couple steps. And he yelled, "Run!" And Coach, I just now walked. And he yelled at me again, "Run!" So I tried. I ran a couple of steps and fell on my face. And that old bastard, he's leaning over me. "Get up!" Like a drill sergeant. Stuff that I can't say here on you. "Get up! You weasel!" And it was worse than weasel. "Get up off the ground and run!" And you know, when I graduated high school, I wasn't on the cross country team, but I went out running with them after school. I could run 10 miles a day when I graduated. And I felt like that was a hell of an accomplishment. Went into the doctor's office after I had been walking for a few weeks. Went into Dr. Osborne's office. Sitting down on the exam couch there. And he comes in. And he saw the look on my face and he looked around. Where's your cane? And I got up and I walked across the room to him. I said, I don't use it anymore. He was almost in tears. And I probably was. Brings me pretty close to tears right now. It was quite an emotional thing. Coach Birkenhager, Coach Burke as we called him, I owe the guy. People would watch the way he was treating me and they'd be like, damn, Coach is being hard on you. Hey, Coach Burke knew what I needed and he did it. That's the kind of guy he was. I'm sure he's no longer alive, but what a guy. I feel, even though, a lot of it's due to my hard work, the doctor's hard work, and Coach Burke's hard work, I still feel very lucky and very blessed to be able to walk today. The right leg is 2 inches shorter than the other one. The ankle still doesn't flex the way it's supposed to, but I can walk. If you're still here listening to me babble on, thank you. It's a story that I needed to get out there. I'm 68 years old. I don't feel like I'm close to dying or anything, but I'm 68 years old and I got stories that I want to tell that are going to last after I'm gone. So, whatever injuries you have, whatever situation you're in, all I can say is don't give up. Hopefully you have somebody like Coach Birkenhager to help you along. Somebody to push you. Somebody you got to prove it to them. Right now, watch me. I'm going to do it. Year and a half to walk. And graduated high school running 10 miles a day. I can't run 10 miles a day now. I can't run 1 mile. And I'm 68 years old and 250 pounds with 2 bum legs, but I can walk. So whatever it is, hang in there. Don't give up. Keep working at it. And have fun. We'll catch you on the next one.